accompanied him every day and sat with him in court, and I also did his personal things for him.
Who was he?
It was Judge Klopper.
Klopper.
Yes.
Yes.
Chief Justice.
Was it a rewarding experience?
It was an amazing privilege. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Did you have a law degree already or not yet?
Yes, I already had a law degree, and then I was busy with my honors at that stage.
Did that experience fire up in your heart the desire to be a judge one day?
Absolutely, without a doubt. What I remember is my judge said to me that you will have to work twice as hard as any other man to make a success.
Yes.
And it was just a wonderful privilege to work as a judge.
The prejudice against women was just as strong back then, or stronger.
That was his perception at that stage, and that was the advice that he gave me.
What
yes.
was your experience? Were women being treated like men, or were they discriminated against?
That was in 1988, so they were not, unfortunately, not a lot of women. I was there for nearly 2 years that appeared in court as advocates, so there were not a lot of women practicing law at that stage.
Yes. And just tell us what qualifications do you have, academic qualifications?
I've got a B.Proc, and then I did my honors in politics.
Politics?
Yes, I received a bursary, but it was all about the Constitution, more about, well, I did it on the ANC. At that stage, there were no material in South Africa because the ANC was still banned. But I mean that the struggle for the Constitution, that was.
Well, on a lighter note, some judges, after retirement go on politics, like Chief Justice Dumbuchena of Zimbabwe. He tried politics unsuccessfully. Are you threatening to go that way after retirement?
Not at all. Not at all. I'm not interested.
Yes. Now, practice. When did you start practice? Or is it only B.Proc that you have?
I've only got the B.Proc and the honors as
Yes.
degrees. Those are the only 2 degrees.
And what else did you do?
I did, in 91, there was, at the University of Pretoria, there was a course in human rights, and I did that course.
Yes, yes. And what work have you since done? What jobs have you since performed ever since you ceased being a clerk?
For a short period of time, while my then husband was doing his finishing his military commitments, I was at Home Affairs in Pretoria, but from there on I moved to Limpopo, and for the past 22 years I'm an attorney, first a candidate attorney, and now for 22 years an attorney in Limpopo, first in Louis Trichardt, and then for 22 years in Polokwane now.
Yes. And for how long did you act as a judge, and where?
I did 3 stints. The first stint was in January, February 2014 in Pretoria. The second, I did 2 stints last year, all 4 weeks in Pretoria and 2 weeks in Thohoyandou during the one stint, and the second stint, I think also 4 weeks in Pretoria and 2 weeks in Thohoyandou.
Were you given the support you needed?
Absolutely. The only thing is, in Pretoria, the judges are wonderful, but they are so busy, so you are basically on your own. If you ask them, they will gladly assist, but yes, but Thohoyandou was amazing. I enjoyed it a lot.
Who was mentoring you in Thohoyandou?
Luckily, Lugori Patudi was there, and Lugori, he was a candidate attorney, and I was a young attorney, so we know each other for 22 years, so Lugori was the person that I looked up to.
Yes. And did you enjoy your acting stint?
It was absolutely amazing. Thank you for the privilege.
Yes. Are you settled now? Are you comfortable on that chair?
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. JP?
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. de Klerk.
Morning, JP.
Your acting stint comes to cumulatively 3.5 months. Would you say it was enough to expose you to court work at the High Court as a judge?
It was valued experience. I think it can never be enough, but I am ready at this stage.
Mainly, what type of matters did you deal with during this?
Your mic is off, JP.
Sorry. Mainly, what type of cases did you deal with during your acting stint?
I did a lot of civil matters. I only did in Thohoyandou, I did criminal and 2 urgent applications in Thohoyandou, but the rest were in Pretoria. It was civil matters, opposed motions, unopposed motions, trials, and appeals.
I realize that you have a reported case. I recall when you wrote that judgment, I was still in Pretoria, you brought it to me to peruse, and I advised you to mark it reportable. Indeed, it was reported. How did it feel? First acting stint, you were able to produce a reportable judgment.
I'm really humbled by that. It was not planned. I must explain that during the first stint, the one judgment that was reported, I only found out later on. But the second one that I asked you to read to me, that was reported later. But I'm humbled by the experience. I never expected to have the opportunity to write 2 reportable matters.
You have indicated in your CV that you were you are instructing attorney in a matter where a judge was sued for maintenance. Would you say that you did have to gather bravery to take just a step, or did you take it as something in the normal course of your duties?
I did it in the normal course of my duties. I've got so much respect for the bench, but this was about a child, and there were merits in the matter, and that is why I took it on, for no other reason but because it was a deservable case on the merits.
One more question. Am I correct to say that you haven't been exposed much in criminal work at the High Court, criminal trials at the High Court?
Yes.
And how would you, if you were to be appointed now, how would you go about gathering any working knowledge in that regard?
When I did my articles, and initially till 2000, when I did, worked for Boyens, du Preez and Boshoff, I did a lot of criminal work in Limpopo, all over Limpopo. So that foundation is still there. And when I acted in Thohoyandou, when I did we actually went on trial on 2 criminal matters, and I read up, and I gave complete judgments, and I also wrote a few criminal appeals. So I like criminal law in a certain sense, and I will read up, and I will make sure that I am absolutely up to date, and I will be ready to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, President.
Mr. Singh next to you, not across the floor. Not across the floor.
No, I think he knows now. Mr. de Klerk, the JP asked you some questions from which 2 pieces of information came out that I've written down here. Firstly, your time as acting has been minimum. And secondly, the type of matters you've dealt with, he was asking about your amount of work you've done in criminal law. Also came out to be a little bit less. If this panel was to consider you, do you have any strengths that you can say to this committee that you have that you're able to deal with the shortcomings?
I'm very humble, but what I want to say is I really have the respect of my peers, my colleagues, and my community. Thank you.
That's all, Chair. Thank you.
Commissioner Mutimela.
Thanks, President. Good morning, Ms. de Klerk.
Good morning.
May I direct your attention to the covering letter on the letterheads of D, D, K, K, dated the 12th of February 2016. Can you find that?
Yes,
You have it.
yes, thank you.
Very well. It's a very short letter. The second paragraph says, I attach here to the following column, 2.1, my written consent, detailed curriculum vitae, and the standard completed questionnaire. I can't find the nomination form. Where's your nomination form? Were you nominated?
Yes.
Okay. Because the second page, you then say, I consent to the appointment. Who nominated you? You're not attaching it.
How I understood, if I can just explain, I was informed that at the end of January, the positions were advertised, so I applied for the position. And then I was shortlisted. That is what I know about the process.
So you were not nominated,
No, I was
you
not
applied.
nominated. No. I apologize for the misunderstanding. I applied.
I'm actually taking the point. I don't know whether to afford the opportunity or leave it for.
Whatever you want to put to her, you can do so.
So, Mr. Klerk, you understood that you need not be nominated.
Yes.
So when you accept the consent, what are you consenting to? That you may be appointed. Look at the following page. One of the things you attach.
In the
Kindly take note that I, the undersigned, and then it's your full names and ID, hereby consent to the appointment. So you just came on your own, no nomination.
No, that was part of the, according to the application, this was one of the was one of the documents required. So it was said you must attach a consent. So yes, that is the only reason why I attached the document.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thank you, President. But technically,
Commissioner Singh?
she can't
Thank you very much,
she's not nominated.
President. Good morning,
Good morning.
Mr. Klerk. I'd just like to know, also maybe from the chair and other commissioners, what is the import of not having been nominated in dealing with an application or an applicant from a process point of view?
Shouldn't we rather deliberate or bring that up when we deliberate?
We could do, President, but I was just wondering whether the applicant is here on a basis which is wrong. I was just trying to clear that in my mind.
Well, that'll be part of the deliberations. I can't give you an answer straight away.
Thank you, President. Then I would just like to ask Mr. Klerk, then if we can proceed, what languages are you proficient in? Well, we're hearing English. Are there any other languages that you are proficient in speaking and in writing? And what importance do you place on languages in the courts that you're applying for?
I'm only Afrikaans and English, can speak Afrikaans and English. Language is very important. It's a constitutional right, and myself, I know for a fact all my papers, whether my clients are Afrikaans or English, are in English, so that is the language what we use in court, because most South Africans know the language, but if there is any problem with that, there is always provision for interpreters to assist.
And from your short stint as an acting judge, are you satisfied with the standard of interpretation in our courts?
In the High Court, definitely. I must say to you that we only had, if I can recall quickly, only had one matter with a woman from Mozambique where we needed interpreters. The rest of the cases were 99% conducted in English.
Okay, my last question through you, President, is in terms of access to justice, there's always people complaining about access to justice from a financial point of view, location point of view, etc., etc. What is your view on access to justice to the ordinary person, and what do you think can be done differently to make justice accessible to ordinary people?
The reason for the Limpopo division is absolutely access to justice. This is a dream for the Limpopo province coming true. Unfortunately, in a certain sense, my experience is that the Legal Aid Board is not always there, but another thing is, if a person appears in court unrepresented, I've seen so many case law that the judge presiding will then ask the Law Society or the Bar Association to appoint somebody to assist. So you will never, ever, if a person appears in person, not assist that person or get somebody to assist that person.
And just as a follow-up, President, have you yourself done any pro bono work, and to what extent have you done that?
Yes. In Polokwane, I've done a lot. I've been contacted by social organizations, by magistrates, by people from the court who refer clients who don't have money, and I make time and I assist. So I've done high court matters pro bono. I've done maintenance and children's cases pro bono.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Justice, President.
Thank you, Commissioner Singh. Commissioner Schmidt.
Thank you, Chief Justice. From your questionnaire, in particular pages 6, paragraph 6.1, and page 8, paragraph 6.2.5, you create a very strong impression that you concentrated and appear to be somewhat an expert in family law. And I'm trying to read further. On page 7, for instance, you indicate, I handled an attempted murder and a fraud case, but in the past 2 years. Is it a fair assumption to say that you seem to be a reasonable expert on family law, but lack experience in criminal and possibly civil motion and criminal trial experience?
I do a lot of family law, and I'm very humble, but I know family law, and I'm so humble if I say that. But I also do a lot of civil work, a lot of motions, and criminal work, as I already explained. That is my background. That is what I did during my articles in my first 10 years, and it was still wonderful to do some criminal. But yes, due to circumstances, and our firm specializes in a sense, so we've got somebody who's doing the criminal, who's doing the labor, but I do a lot of civil. Although my passion is for family law, and I've got a good knowledge of family law.
Thank you. Commissioner Semenya.
Chief Justice, thank you. Good day, ma'am.
Good day, sir.
One of the cases you cite as significant is the Celier versus Celier matter. And just for the record, the Semenya AJ there is not me. Is that right? Why do you consider that significant, though?
That matter was since reported in the law reports of March of this year. The importance of that matter is because of a punishment and a moral judgment. That in brief is what I'm saying. It's not for the court to listen to the conduct of the parties as far as the breakdown of the marriage is concerned, and then to make a moral judgment and to punish a party. It's not in accordance with the development of the law in our country anymore.
I understand Section 9 of the Divorce Act to have a very internal instrument in it, which is whether or not a party is unduly benefiting out of the dissolution of that marriage, no?
That's correct. It is all about contributions. If you are married for 30 years and you you've been a good wife and a good mother, and you contributed in the traditional role or assisted in the business or worked, and now after 30 years the marriage breaks down and you are having an affair with somebody else, you cannot be, what you've contributed in 30 years, you cannot be taken away because of that one step. And the law is quite clear. There are so many case law that normally both parties are to be blamed in a lesser or more severe extent.
Or if you're a husband who is at home all that time, you shouldn't be punished, I guess.
Absolutely.
All right. Your understanding of the rule of law, what did you say it is?
It's it's about the community. What is the community morals? And in terms of the rule of law, that is what you are entitled to.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Commissioner Siminya. Commissioner Fori?
Good afternoon. I see it's just a minute or two in the afternoon. Mr. Klerk, I just want to ask you about one thing. Commissioner Motimele has asked you about your self-nomination. For purposes of these proceedings, being an attorney, you require a certificate of good standing from your law society.
Yes, that is correct.
Now, that is a pretty standard document that merely says there are no proceedings pending against you, and that accordingly you are in good standing with the law society. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I am curious that you, however, despite the fact that that's a standard document, I think that any attorney knows exactly what it contains, you wrote to the Law Society requesting such a certificate, and you said, dit moet spesifiek die volgende vervat, namelijk, the questionnaire must be accompanied by the standardized clearance certificate, bracket certificate of good standing, which the candidate is required to obtain from his/her professional body regarding the candidate's professional status within that body, his or her suitability for appointment to the bench, and the nature of any disciplinary proceedings completed or pending in respect of the relevant candidate. To this, the Law Society responded correctly by saying, die inhoud van die aangehegde sertifikaat is standaard en daar sal nie enige byvoegings gemaak kan word tot die inhoud daarvan nie. Meer spesifiek, die orde kan nie 'n sertifisering en of aanbeveling maak in die sertifikaat van goeie stand met betrekking tot de Klerk se suitability for appointment to the bench nie. Dit was korrek dan ook die prokureursorde se reaksie. Was u onder die indruk dat die prokureursorde moet kommentaar lewer as to your suitability to the bench?
Ek wil dit net verduidelik dat weer eens hierdie brief is geskryf na aanleiding van die vereistes in die aansoek om hierdie pos.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I think you forgot both of you.
Yeah.
Commissioner started with Afrikaans and led you into Africa.
Sorry,
I'm sure you're not insisting.
I am
No, I'm not.
apologizing profoundly.
Yes, ma'am.
To explain two things. First of all, let me start at there was two questions. The first question is, when I was acting in Pretoria, Judge Cynthia Pretorius asked me whether I'm going to apply for the position of a judge in Pretoria, and I said to her, no, and she said you must consider that. And I must also say that my JP also asked me at a certain stage, are you ready? So I'm not arrogant to apply for this position, and please, I'm really humbled by that. The second question, as far as my law society is concerned, The questionnaire, or the advertisement that the positions are available said that you must attach a consent and a letter from the Law Society. So this was as a result of that. Later on, recently the Law Society sent me a recommendation, but once again, please, it was just to make sure that everything that they asked for was attached to the application.
Sorry, my question is just, did you think that the Law Society is required to comment on your suitability for appointment to the bench?
Yes.
Because that's what you requested
Yes.
them to do. Did you think that is part of their obligation to provide you with such comments?
To comment, whatever
Yeah.
positive or negative.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Commissioner Fourie. Commissioner Modise.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good day, ma'am.
Good day.
Just to follow up on the questions from Commissioner Fourie, is the sum of 171 rand that was paid then for this certificate that then becomes part of the document that says you are suitable for the for placement?
Yes.
So you paid 171 rands to get the society to recommend you,
No, to give a certificate, negative
to
or
give a
positive.
certificate that recommends you.
Yes, to give a certificate.
Thank you, CJ.
Thank you, Chairperson. President Bati.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Mr. Klerk, I've just asked the Secretariat to bring us the advert that you were referring to. And I just want to read the first line and then to the next page, the third line there. It says that the Judicial Service Commission invites nominations to fill vacancies as judges in the following courts, and then it lists the courts. And on page 2, it says nominations must be accompanied by the candidate's written consent, etc. Did you misread that?
Yes, because the written consent, that was the document, that is the consent that...
No. All I'm saying is that the written consent, according to the advert, must accompany the nomination. Did you miss nomination, that it must accompany the nomination rather than the application?
Yes,
You missed that?
yes.
Misread it. All right, thank you.
You are excused, Mr. Klerk.
Thank you kindly.